The flames blaze as a single engine burns for over 6 minutes. A test that not only masters steel and fire, but also redefines the boundaries of space travel and brings us one step closer to Mars. This is the Raptor 3, SpaceX's latest masterpiece, demonstrated in a breathtaking video that shows how far technology has come, and shows us why this engine could be the revolution for Starship and beyond. Today, we're diving deep into this engine revolution. We'll compare Raptor 1, 2, and 3 in detail, focusing on the incredible numbers of the new one, and measure them against giants like the Blue Engine, 4, F1, Merlin 1D, or Rocketdyne 180. Where does Raptor 3 shine, and where might it even lag behind a little? We'll explore the possibilities this power opens up, but also the risks that come with it, and take a look at production, the upcoming 12th flight, as well as the growing infrastructure at Starbase and in Florida. I'm Serwin, and this is Mars Chronicles. Let's go. Let's get straight to the core. The comparison of the Raptor generations, because that perfectly illustrates the evolution of SpaceX's vision and shows us how they went from an ambitious concept to a world-class engine. The Raptor 1, which debuted in 2019, was the pioneer. A Methalox engine with 185 tons of thrust at sea level, a specific impulse of 350 seconds in vacuum, and a mass of about 2 tons. In addition, it required over 1.5 tons of hardware on the vehicle side, so a little more than 3.6 tons total mass for 185 tons of thrust, a thrust-to-weight ratio, or thrust-to-weight ratio of 51. Here, Raptor 1 was already running at about 250 bar chamber pressure. That was already impressive because it enabled the transition to reusable systems, but it was still struggling with complexities and a high number of parts. That led to a complicated production process, which in turn resulted in reduced reliability. But at this point, SpaceX was only in the Pathfinder phase of development. Then came Raptor 2. In 2022, a quantum leap. Thrust rose to 230 tons, but 3 seconds of specific impulse were lost, making it now 347 seconds. That's with an engine mass of just over 1.6 tons, 400 kilos lighter than Raptor 1. In addition, there's a saving of almost 300 kilos on the vehicle side hardware, so just under 2.9 tons total mass and 230 tons of thrust, which gives us a thrust-to-weight ratio of almost 80. The chamber pressure will be raised to 300 bar. All of this is achieved through simplified cooling, less shielding, and optimized manufacturing, which reduced the cost per engine to under $1 million and increased reliability for serial launches. As we've also seen with the Falcon 9 missions, by the way, that was also the time when SpaceX reached a production cadence of 1 engine per day. But Raptor 3, the star of the current tests, is setting new standards and shows why SpaceX is leading the engine revolution. With a thrust of 280 tons and a specific impulse of 350 seconds in vacuum, they've regained the 3 seconds of efficiency that were previously lost. That's with a lean mass of 1.5 tons. The hardware needed on the vehicle side doesn't weigh more than 200 kilos, so a total mass of 1.7 tons for a thrust of 280 tons. That means they've more than tripled the thrust-to-weight ratio from 50 to 165. Raptor 3 reaches a chamber pressure of over 350 bar, which means a 20% increase in efficiency compared to Raptor 2, making it one of the most powerful ever built. The special feature is the simplicity of having fewer parts thanks to integrated cooling channels. No more external shields, only the gimbal and actuators are protected. And a burn time that, in testing, reached an impressive 388 seconds, which is almost 6.5 minutes. With that, SpaceX simulated a full Starship ascent. So that's already an operational engine that was tested for Flight 12. If you look very closely, you can see how it moves since the control is being simulated. And take a look at how clean these Methalox flames are, extremely stable and even. Additionally, the cooling is so efficient that the engine nozzle not only doesn't start to glow, but even develops frost on the outside. Compared to other engines, Raptor 3 excels in thrust-to-weight ratio. There are no official figures for the Blue engine, 4 from Blue Origin, but it's estimated that, optimistically, it's around 1.8 tons. It delivers almost 285 tons of thrust at a chamber pressure of 134 bar, which is much lower than Raptor 3, but the absolute thrust is greater. However, its specific impulse and vacuum is 158, so not that much worse than Raptor. Visually, it looks much more complex and elaborate, and therefore also more prone to errors. So far, however, they have proven to be flawless. I found a cool Raptor 3 model online, link below, which I printed at a large size using my Prusa Core 1. The details that are possible with the printer are really crazy. The Rocketdyne F1 engine of the Saturn V delivers 760 tons of thrust at a chamber pressure of only 70 bar and a total mass of around 9.2 tons. The Merlin 1D engine of the Falcon 9 delivers up to 100 tons of thrust at a chamber pressure of 97 bar and a total mass of 490 kilograms. With that, we are moving with the SGV in the range of 184 to 204, depending on whether the engine is firing at sea level or in a vacuum. The Russian Rocketdyne 180, which is also used by the American Atlas V, delivers 380 to 420 tons of thrust with a total mass of 5.5 tons. That's at a chamber pressure of 267 bar. Here, the specific impulse is between 69 and 77. Raptor 3 excels in thrust-to-weight ratio and reusability. It is lighter and more powerful than the competition, with a specific impulse that exceeds the maximum 340 seconds of the Blue engine, 4. The chamber pressure also exceeds the 70 bar of the mighty F1 engine by 5 times, which means better combustion and less fuel. The startup time is also world-class, reaching full power within seconds, unlike the Rocketdyne 180, which takes significantly longer. But not everything is perfect. Compared to the Blue engine, 4, which also uses Methalox, the Raptor 3 is more complex to manufacture due to its full-flow stage combustion, which could mean higher failure rates at first. Even Raptor 2 has already demonstrated a reliability that is extremely impressive. Across 11 flights, nearly 400 engines have flown with only a few failures. We're still discussing a development program here. The Blue engine, 4, is also a stage combustion engine, but it's not a full-flow stage combustion, just a partial flow. In addition, the Blue engine 4 provides a bit more thrust and can be throttled down lower than the Raptor. The Blue Origin monster is designed for gentle operation at low chamber pressure to achieve high reusability. That is also the goal of the Raptor 3, but with more than double the chamber pressure. Both engines are still at the beginning of their respective life cycles, so we will see significant performance improvements in both. Musk says that, in the long term, Raptor 3 will go well beyond 300 tons of thrust. Compared to the F1 Raptor, 3 loses in absolute thrust, but wins in efficiency and reusability. Merlin 1D is cheaper and simpler because it burns kerosene in an open gas generator cycle, but it's less efficient. The Rocketdyne 180 tops reliability with over 100 flights without failure, but it's outdated and not reusable. Additionally, it's Russian hardware, and due to the current geopolitical climate, it's no longer particularly desirable. And it won't take many flights of the Raptor 3 to overtake the Russians here. Because, as you know, every Starship stack uses at least 39 engines. Later 42 Raptor 3 engines. Additionally, the high chamber pressure carries a certain risk of explosion, as we've seen in tests. However, SpaceX seems confident that they can get that under control. The possibilities that Raptor 3 opens up are breathtaking and make Starship a true enabler for becoming a multi-planetary species. With higher thrust and better efficiency, Starship can bring 200 tons of payload into low Earth orbit in a reusable way. This enables lunar bases, Mars cargo flights, and even space data centers. It remains to be seen how robust the Raptor 3 architecture really is in actual continuous operation. While most engines are designed to carry out a single mission, Raptor 3, like the engine of a commercial jet, is intended to fly multiple missions without significant maintenance in between. It will go the same way as it did with the Falcon 9. SpaceX will approach this gradually, so an engine won't be used 20 times without inspection right from the first mission. They will approach rapid and complete reuse step by step, flight by flight. Several Raptor 2 engines have already been reused multiple times. In production, SpaceX shows how they are driving the revolution. Raptor 3 is being produced in large quantities in McGregor. And in 2025, they have tested enough to prepare for the first Block 3 test flight on the new Pad 2. With serial numbers already up to 88, as I said, they were already at 1 in 2022. Raptor 2 per day and Raptor 3 is optimized for production. We don't have exact information yet, but you can be sure that over one Raptor 3 is produced daily in McGregor. And that's at an incredible price of under $1 million, possibly even under $500,000. Meanwhile, Blue's Blue Engine 4 is at about 8 to 20 million. They need more than a week for one BE4, but now it's getting wild. The Rocketdyne, 25 engines which were used on the Space Shuttle and are now also used for the Space Launch System, or Space Launch System for short, cost $145 million each. National Aeronautics and Space Administration paid Aerojet Rocketdyne $3.5 billion United States dollars for 24 units. But it's not like it's a super mega awesome engine. It weighs almost 4 tons and delivers around 210 tons of thrust, so a specific impulse of not even 54. Price per ton of thrust? Please calculate it yourself. I prefer not to throw up. But we know that the Space Launch System is an incredibly expensive pile of junk. That's why we're coming back to the Raptor. Following the explosion at Messi's test facility, cryo tests are underway on certain test articles. The damaged infrastructure got a complete upgrade at the same time. The static fire test stand was upgraded for Block 3 and may be ready for a static fire by year's end. However, whether an upper stage will be ready by then is another question. Flight 12 could come with Booster 19 and Ship 39, where we might see a full 388-second ignition of the upper stage. But I wouldn't be surprised if 1 or 2 things go wrong on the first flight. Starbase as a city since 2025 is absolutely fascinating and fits seamlessly with this boom in infrastructure. Because alongside the gigantic gigabase and launch pads, not only technical hardware is being created here, but also a complete living environment for the people who make all this possible. It's a modern company town, similar to Pullman in 1880, where the railroad manufacturer George Pullman built an entire city for his workers, complete with houses, schools, and parks to increase productivity and promote loyalty. Or like Hershey in Pennsylvania, where the chocolate magnate Milton Hershey created an ideal community, with affordable housing, recreational facilities, and even an amusement park to keep his employees happy and loyal. Such company towns offer clear advantages like stable housing close to work, community facilities, and often subsidized living costs that make life easier for employees and increase the attractiveness of the job. Especially in remote areas like the former Boca Chica, now known as Starbase. But they also carry risks, such as a strong dependence on the company, which can exercise control over daily life and housing. This leads to social tensions when economic difficulties arise or company policies don't fit. Just think of the strikes in Pullman in 1894, which escalated because the workers felt like prisoners. But let's go back for a moment to that incredible 6-minute Raptor video. Let's take a closer look at the impressive startup and shutdown of the Raptor 3, because that reveals the intricacies of this engine and shows why it's so revolutionary. The startup process begins with a precise ignition sequence. First, the turbopump system is powered up, where methane and oxygen are pumped into the pre-burners to drive the turbines. Within seconds, the pressure reaches 350 bar and the flame ignites cleanly, without the typical pops or instabilities of earlier versions, which indicates optimized injectors that ensure even mixing. In the video, you can see slight movements of the gimbal system simulating the ascent. The engine subtly swivels to simulate control forces, and the fire remains stable with a bright blue flame, indicating efficient combustion. Ramping up to 100% takes only milliseconds, and then it runs at full duration. When shutting down, it cools down in a controlled manner, the fuel flow is reduced, the flame extinguishes cleanly without backfire, and the system flushes with nitrogen to avoid residues. A process that emphasizes reusability since no damage occurs. When we look at the full flow stage combustion cycle of Raptor, it becomes clear why it is superior. In this cycle, both turbopumps for oxygen and methane are fully utilized, which allows for higher efficiency and thrust. In contrast to partial flow stage combustion like the Blue Engine 4 or the gas generator cycle of the F1, which wastes propellant to drive the turbines and therefore have lower impulse. The Raptor cycle is more complex, using dual preburners, one oxygen-rich and one fuel-rich, methane-rich, which minimizes corrosion and increases the pressure. But here, nothing is wasted, because these two rich mixtures are brought together in the main chamber and burned again, this time almost completely. In summary, you can say the Raptor 3 is an absolute beast and a revolutionary one at that. It's so greatly simplified that the Chief Executive Officer of United Launch Alliance believed the engine was incomplete. Raptor 3 may not be the best in every category, but the overall package makes it incredibly efficient. For that amount of money, you only get a fraction of the performance from any other provider, and you have to wait much longer for it. Call me a SpaceX fanboy. But the fact is, they've built the best engine in history so far. If you liked this look at the Raptor engine, subscribe to Mars Chronicles and give a thumbs up. Thanks so much to all channel members and Patreon supporters. If you also want early access to our videos, you can find all the information about it below in the video description. My name is Servan and this was Mars Chronicles. Thanks for tuning in. Pera spera ad astra.